Shared prosperity is not a dream. It is a must that we have to do. We never stop. The relentless push to really seeing through it that no one is left behind, and every support of advice that we can give to many of these MSMEs will help them cross over. If we want to make the Philippines a much better place for all of us, we have to do our part.
I reiterate the government's full commitment to work hand in hand with all stakeholders to make certain that MSMEs are protected and provided with ample opportunity. I commend, of course, Negosem. You are our reliable allies and partners in paving a richer path for collaboration and innovation in the business sector. My hope remains high for this endeavor because I listened to Joey Concepcion as he made his speech. It comes from the right place in his heart. It comes from a place that wants to help Filipinos, that wants to make the Philippines a better place, that wants to improve the lives of every Filipinos. And that is why I know this will succeed.
So if we elevate the lives of our MSMEs, then more jobs will be generated for our people in this country. When you help people and make them successful, these same people that you will help to become successful will help others. So as we continue that circle of success, then we will truly achieve an inclusive Philippines.
We started with a vision to build an enterprising nation, founded in passion, optimism, and perseverance. With our big brothers at the helm, we have steered micro, small, and medium enterprises towards success by facilitating their access to mentorship, money, and markets. The thrust of our numerous programs is guided by an ultimate goal: to uplift the lives of Filipinos and ensure that no one is left behind. Driven by our commitment to this mission, we harnessed every possible means to reach more people, spread our message, and inspire everyone to embrace the entrepreneurial spirit. We have made an impact on every sector of society, fostering positive change and advancing inclusive growth. Our efforts have created ripples that are felt far and wide. We foster disruptive innovations to stimulate greater economic inclusivity. We celebrated entrepreneurs for their visionary spirit and for paving new paths for the next generations. We embody the Bayanihan spirit in forging partnerships with various industries and the Philippine government to extend a helping hand to the last, the lost, and the least. We have also expanded our philosophy beyond our borders to create the largest network of mentors in the ASEAN region. In the darkest of times brought by the pandemic, we journeyed together to see the light at the end of the tunnel, emerging stronger and more resilient than ever before. After 18 years of perseverance and hard work, we overcame, achieved, and grown more than we ever imagined.
Shared prosperity is not a dream. It is a must that we have to do. When you help people and make them successful, these same people that you will help to become successful will help others. So as we continue that circle of success, then we will truly achieve an inclusive Philippines.
But our mission is far from over, and we look forward to new opportunities that will extend our vision to new heights. We are Go Negosyo, championing Filipino MSMEs, moving towards prosperity for all.
Shared prosperity is share.
Ayan. Hello, good afternoon, Go Negosyantes. Welcome dito sa Go Negosyo Negosem. Ayan. Can you hear me? So, ayun, Go Negosyantes, good afternoon sa inyong lahat. Isang panibagong araw na naman po para sa dagdag kaalaman mula sa Go Negosyo. Alam kong excited na po kayo, but let me introduce myself first. I'm Sheen Soteo, your resident social media host. And syempre, if ikaw ay isang certified Go Negosyantes, nakafollow ka sa ating Go Negosyo Facebook page and naka-attend ka na sa 3MOWs, yes, ako po ang nagla-live doon tuwing morning sa 3MOW. So ngayong araw naman po, nandito tayo sa Go Negosyo, Negosyo Seminar. Ito naman po ang programa ng Go Negosyo and it is a half-day seminar on how-tos in entrepreneurship. Siyempre para po ito sa lahat ng ating mga existing and aspiring Go Negosyantes. Ibigyan po namin kayo ng opportunities and tutulungan namin kayo mas maging innovative, strategic and smart pagdating sa pagnenegosyo. And ngayong araw ay Negosem Specials. Ito naman po, ang focus nito ay special topics on entrepreneurship tulad ng marketing, accounting, finance, oblicon, and syempre taxation, which is ngayon, yun ang magiging topic natin. Alam ko, Go Negosyantes, yung iba sa inyo is kulang pa ang kaalaman sa taxation and confused sa paiba-ibang requirements ng BIR. And talaga namang kailangan natin to bilang negosyante para syempre iwas tayo sa mga penalties. Okay, so ayan, dumadami na tayo. Syempre, huwag niyo kalimutan, pwede po kayo mag-selfie or screenshot ng ating session. And you can use our hashtag. You can post it on social media and use our hashtag GoNegosyo, hashtag Negosem Taxation, and hashtag GoNegosyo Negosem. Ayan, gamitin niyo po yung mga hashtags natin and post in social media, okay? So, okay. So ayan, sino dito mga excited na at may ngayon pa lang may naka-ready ng mga questions about sa taxation? Ayan, okay. So guys, makinig po kayo ng mabuti sa ating topic today. And syempre, to officially start our program, may we call on our very own negosyo, the Go Negosyo Executive Director, Ms. Mina Akram.
Hello. Thank you, Sheen. Maraming salamat sa pag-host mo today as our resident online host. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. I'm sure you're all busy as small business owners, but you took the time to really join us this afternoon for a very special negosyo seminar session on the ABCs of taxation. So, ito pong negosyo seminar ay matagal nang ginagawa ng Go Negosyo for the past 18 years. We've been conducting negosyo seminars but primarily on mindset. No, but today, I think this year, we actually have agreed to revive our negosyo seminar to be able to offer more sessions para sa ating mga maliliit na negosyante on relevant topics, kaya kagaya nga ng mga nabanggit ni Sheen na taxation, pwede tayong mag-usap about exporting, pwede tayong mag-usap about marketing, or kahit anumang pong mga bagay na sa tingin nyo ay may value or kahalagahan sa pagpapatakbo ng mga negosyo nyo. Or kung meron man po tayo sa mga audience na hindi pa nagsistart ng negosyo, hopefully this will be the start para mas ma-inspire kayo to really push and explore your ideas and venture into being an entrepreneur. So, on behalf of our founder po, si Mr. Joey Concepcion, unfortunately, hindi po siya makasama ngayon or makapag-message sa inyo kasi currently po ay siya ay pauwi galing po sa isang engagement sa ASEAN. But on behalf of our founder, I would like to thank everyone for joining us And I would like to give a special mention also to our resident mentor who will teach this afternoon after ko magsalita, si Attorney Kim. Maraming salamat, Attorney Kim, for your time. We really appreciate na nag-alat ka ng oras at panahon para turuan ang ating mga maliliit na negosyante. So maraming salamat po. So ang message ko lang po sa Go Negosyo ay po, we have always been here as an advocacy that targets to help, assist, and support yung mga maliliit na negosyante all over the Philippines. At ginagawa po namin ito through mentorship. And marami po kaming mga mentorship programs na niro-roll out. Halos every week nga po meron kaming mentorship programs. And ini-encourage ko po kayo kung hindi pa man kayo nakakasama sa mga mentorship programs or na-experience nyo na yung mga mentorship programs namin, na patuloy kayong pumunta at huwag kayong matakot magtanong sa aming mga mentors. So marami kaming mga mentors, resident mentors na handang tumulong, magbigay ng oras at mag-assist at mag-guide sa mga questions nyo. But at the end of the day, I guess ang isang mensahe ko lang is nakadepende pa rin yan sa inyo, no? Dun sa management nyo bilang isang negosyante. And isa sa mga importanteng ginagawa ng isang negosyante ay ang mga, kumbaga, tawag dito, ang mga usual stuff na kinakailangan para patuloy tayo makapag-operate ng ating mga negosyo, no? So these our due diligence not only to our businesses but to the government. And isa sa mga topics na mainit ngayon ay ano nga ba yung mga kailangan yung alamin? Maybe may mga bago ng polisiya, may mga bago ng kumbaga items na kailangan yung malaman on the issues of taxation or on the areas of taxation. So hopefully by the end of today, Attorney Kim and maybe the rest of our Go Negosyo team who's gonna be answering and assisting you in the chat group will be able to give you, clarity and understanding on what to do moving forward, no, sa inyong pag-deal sa inyong mga taxation duties bilang isang maliit na negosyante. So yun lang, hope to see you po sa mga mentoring events namin on the ground. We have a lot. Sa mga taga Manila po or malapit sa Manila on February 10, meron po kaming mentorship on wheels. So kung hindi pa man po sapat ang mga matutunan nyo ngayon at gusto nyo makapagtanong face-to-face sa isang mentor, pwede po kayo pumunta sa Robinsons, Manila. Andun po kami from 10 a.m. to around 4 p.m. Kung hindi naman po, abangan nyo lang po ang mga announcements namin sa Go Negosyo Facebook page, sa Let's Go Negosyo sa Twitter, Instagram at TikTok. So muli, maraming salamat po and I hope you enjoy the sessions this afternoon.
Okay, maraming salamat po, Miss Mina. Ayun, bago tayo mag-umpisa, here are some reminders, Go Negosyantes. Ayan, first, pag may katanungan po kayo ay pwede nyo pong i-type dito sa ating chat box. Kung meron naman po kayong specific na katanungan, pwede nyo siyang i-email sa mentorme@gonegosyo.ph. Next, pwede rin kayo, magbibigay po kami ng copy ng PDF presentation ng ating speakers sa email na inyong provided after nyo mag-fill out sa evaluation form. Paalala lang din po to change your Zoom name sa format na last name, first name, at siguraduhin same sa pangalan ng inyong niregister. So ayan, ayan po for the reminder, sinasend po sa atin siya ni Roland dito sa ating chat box. Okay, alright. Alright, alam ko excited na po kayong matuto ngayong araw. Kaya hindi na namin papatagalin pa, sabay-sabay tayong makinig at matuto. Our speaker is a lawyer and CPA. Manages the tax advisory at the PNA Cebu and Davao branches, guiding clients in corporate processes, tax assessments, and more. A resource speaker for various organizations, contributor to Mindanao Times, and certified Go Negosyo mentor for Kapatid Mentor Me program. He previously handled diverse legal matters at CCIP, Salazar, Hernandez, and Gatmaytan, and currently teaching at the University of San Carlos. He is a subject coordinator in taxation law review and co-authored publications in cost accounting. To help us understand the basics of taxation, let us welcome Attorney Kim Aranas.
Hi, good afternoon, Ms. Shin.
Hi,
Can you hear
Attorney
me po?
Kim. Good afternoon po.
Good afternoon, everyone. Um, can you see my screen, ma'am?
Yes po.
Alright, sige. Again, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much, Ms. Shin, for that introduction. Uh, ano po yun? Usually for our proposal purposes po yun sa firm. But anyhow, you can just call me Kim for short, no? I'll be discussing this afternoon ABCs of business taxation. So if you notice the title ABC definitely gives us an idea that this will be the very basics, no? In business taxation. But as many of us here may know, especially my former colleague, si Miss Arian, who is also in the call, taxation is not that very easy, no? Because this is a technical, kumbaga, no? This is a technical law. There are several items that we need to remember that could change every now and then. And as you may know already at this point, last January 5, the president already signed a new law, no, amending our tax code, and that's called the Ease of Paying Taxes Act, or the EOPT. So as I go along with my discussion this afternoon, I will be discussing on this um, changes or amendments under the law. And if you have questions or clarifications, please feel free lang po to um, post it in our chat box so that I can address it during our open forum. Right? Let me just reshare my screen for a while. Sorry for that. Okay, so for the agenda this afternoon, we will start with our discussion on what you need to know, the A. So we go back to the essence of our BIR certificate of registration, the books of accounts, the authority to print receipt, and invoices. We will just have a quick recap on this, especially for those who already have registered businesses, no? And of course, for those who are still planning to register, so you will have an idea now what to expect when it comes to BIR registration. What are the documents that you need to have so that you'll be tax mapped by the BIR? You won't be assessed with administrative penalties, no? Just because you failed to display your notice to issue invoice, say for example, or you were not able to present your books of accounts. Then we move on to the discussion on the different tax types and compliance requirements. Special emphasis, of course, for individual sole proprietor. So we will be discussing on that, and then taxation for business entities. Then we move on to tips and techniques. Since I am only given 2 hours, by the way, I may be speaking a bit fast. So if meron po kayong medyo need to clarify, please chat in the chat box. All right. Tips and techniques when it comes to the year-end reminders, especially for those who are already registered with the BIR. What are the things that you need to prepare prior to April 15, and of course after April 15, when you will be required to submit the attachments, perhaps to your annual income tax return. Then reminders on maximizing your allowable deductions claim legally. So I think we have accountants here, or we have CPAs here, no? And those who are practicing tax, we will agree that there are definitely some tax rules which are quite different from accounting rules and vice versa. So we will try to discuss the requirements for taxation. And then the pitfalls in tax compliance, and of course, the C, because this is ABCs in business taxation. The C here is what's the latest, no? Na-mention ko na during the introduction, we now have the ease of paying taxes. But then more than that, we will, of course, amplify on the priority programs of the BIR and the latest issuances of the BIR. We will have a quick discussion, especially on exemption from issuance, say for example, of primary supporting documents if you are into sale of agricultural food product, or and we will discuss also on the requirement of withholding, no, for online sellers, no, by digital platforms. So we will have a quick discussion on that also under the C's of business taxation. Okay, let's start. What you need to know. So this is a very quick recap, no? Especially for those who are already registered. Once you register your business, if it is sole proprietorship, as we very well, we have to register first with a DTI. Once we have that DTI registration, we move on to registration with BIR. We move on to registration with a local government unit. We get the mayor's permit. Special emphasis this afternoon is your registration with the Bureau of Internal Revenue or with the BIR. No? Ano yung document that will tell us that we are already registered with the Bureau? That's your BIR Form 2303. This is what we call the BIR COR or the BIR Certificate of Registration. What are the things? No? This is not just a simple certificate that after that you will just have to display, no, in your office, in a conspicuous place of your business that can be seen by your customer. But more than that, please take time in understanding your COR. No? So at the topmost portion, let's just go quickly one by one on these important items. On the topmost portion of your COR, you will have there an indication on the revenue region where you belong, and of course the revenue district office where you belong. No? This is crucial because before the passage of the ease of paying taxes or the EOPT, you need to file and pay within the RDO or in the authorized agent bank of your RDO. However, remember that under the EOPT currently, or under the ease of paying taxes currently, there is now what we call filing and payment anywhere provision. So we can now file, okay, file and pay anywhere, all right? But nevertheless, why do we still need to understand what are the two? Because if ever there will be tax mapping, say for example, or if there will be assessments, you will be assessed by the BIR, then of course it will have to be undertaken by your respective revenue district office na revenue officer. No? Protests whatsoever as regards to these assessments will also be undertaken and addressed to the revenue region where your RDO belongs to. No? And then, of course, very crucial is your TIN or taxpayer's identification number, your taxpayer's name, as well as the address indicated in the BIR COR. Why is this important? Of course, this is important because the notices that the BIR should send to you must contain this information. The tax return that you should file to the BIR should contain the correct TIN, the correct name, and the correct address. Because always remember when it comes to taxation, there is this penalty on failure to provide correct information. So we don't want that just because we place there the wrong tax identification number, we will already be penalized for that. All right? And then of course, an indication kung ano ba yung na-register. Is it head office or is it branch? So that also will be indicated in your BIR COR. Okay? All right. This is usually on the second page of the BIR COR. So this is your, this provides detail as to your tax type. So please go through the tax type that you will be liable if you're already registered with the BIR. Of course, if you are an individual taxpayer, you will not be paying corporate income tax as shown here, because this is for corporation. No, for individual taxpayer, it will be the individual income tax rate. Okay, this is for corporation. But you can be liable for VAT. You can be liable, of course, the same for withholding taxes. So this must be observed to avoid open cases, deficiency assessments, violations, penalties, and surcharges. Now, we have to understand what do we mean by these open cases, no? Ano ba tong open cases? Basically, these open cases refers to uh, unfiled returns or returns that were filed late. Okay? And ano yung basis ni BIR in saying na, oh, you failed to file this particular return, or oh, your return that you file is late. Basically, the information here. No? If you notice, nakaspecify na po yung mga tax type nyo, nakaspecify na din po yung filing start date. So that means, in the system of the BIR, they are expecting that you will file these specified returns in your um, BIR COR and on or before the specified deadline based on the frequency and the filing due date already specified in the BIR COR. No? Which is why usually in the mentoring that we do, especially for Region 7, this is the very first thing that I have to ask with the mentees. Now, if they have a clear understanding of their BIR COR. Kasi more often than not, we don't want to, diba? We don't want to deal with taxes. So what we do is we outsource even the registration with the BIR to somebody else. We may have a bookkeeper there whatsoever. But we have to be careful because sometimes they may be amiss as to the filings of these tax types. And in the registration pa lang, you have to be clear and you have to discuss. You are not the one registering with the BIR what tax type you are going to register with the BIR. Kasi usually po, when you register with the BIR, check ka lang dyan. It's like a menu of tax types. And the registrants will have to check ano yung sa tingin niya yung taxes na babayaran niya. No? So sometimes, taxpayers or the registrant will check their value-added tax or VAT when in fact dapat percentage tax pa lang sana kasi they are not expecting to exceed yet their gross sales to exceed yet the 3 million threshold. Things like that. No? So that's something that you have to take into consideration. Now, once you have these tax types specified in your BIR COR, as mentioned, you're expected to file the return based on the deadline indicated here. What if, let's say, for example, you temporarily stopped business operation? No? Does that mean that you will not also be filing these tax returns? The short answer to that is no. No? So even if there is a temporary stoppage of your business operation and you know that you need to file the withholding tax returns on a monthly basis or your income tax return on a quarterly basis, and you don't have income because you stopped the business, right? Please do know you still need to file these returns to the BIR. It's just that pag final mo yon, naka-indicate lang doon if there's really no tax payable, zero filing or nil filing. Okay? Otherwise, what will happen there is that magiging open cases siya. Okay? And that usually will be brought up if you ask now for clearance from the BIR. Right? Now, some of you may say, well, I will not be asking clearance because I don't find the need. But we don't know when we will die. All right? And I've experienced that firsthand in one of my clients. It's very difficult for us to process the estate tax, payment of the estate tax. Why? Because we cannot get clearance of the previous business of the deceased, no? Because there were too many open cases. Okay, so hopefully you are able to understand that aspect. Okay? If you have a question, I will try to check during the Q&A. Okay? All right. Next is on the um, third page, no, of the BIR COR. So here, you will have your registration detail. Ito corporate. But of course, individual, it will be specified here, business or professional, no? You will have here your trade name, your line of business will be specified, and of course, your registration. Please note, for individual self-employed taxpayers, and we will discuss this in detail later on, you basically have an option to choose the 0 to 35% or the 8% tax on your gross sales, no? Provided you are not VAT registered and you do not exceed the 3 million threshold. The COR already provides a reminder here because of this mandatory law, no? For self-employed individuals whose gross sales or receipts and other non-operating income does not exceed 3 million and who opted for the 8% income tax, uh, the tax type percentage tax shall not be reflected in the certificate of registration or COR. However, at the start of each taxable year, such self-employed individuals shall be automatically subjected to graduated income tax rates and required to file quarterly percentage tax return. What does that mean? It means that the default is the regular 0 to 35% tax plus the filing of the percentage tax or the business tax. So dalawang returns yon, no? 1701Q and 2551Q. Again, this is only for those self-employed individuals who are not VAT registered and the gross sales do not exceed million. So that's one. The other option is 8% of your gross sales in excess of 250. This is in lieu of the filing of the percentage tax return. So if you opt for the 8%, that will already avoid filing the 2551Q or the return for percentage tax. So more or less it will simplify, no? Pero the catch there is the 8% will be based on your gross sales, meaning to say there will be no allowable deductions. Now, the only amount that can be deducted is the first 250,000 pesos thereof. Okay? So we will have a sample computation if we have time later on pertaining to these options. Because ultimately, the question there is, what is best for me? No? Will I be using the, what do you call this one? Will I be using the 8% or will I be using the 0 to 35%? Okay, so that's your BIR COR, right? Then you have, of course, your books of accounts. I hope you still have this, okay? So we get this usually when we register with the BIR. First page there should be a stamp from the BIR, which means that it is registered. Now, what is the use of these books of accounts? You have there the ledger, you have there the journal, you have cash receipts, or you have cash disbursements journal. The thing is, for taxation purposes, our tax authorities expects that you will place here or record here your transactions. No? When we talk of books of accounts, usually upon registration, the default there is that these books of accounts will be registered as manual or manually. No? So when we talk of manual books of accounts, it means mano-mano yung pag-entry ng mga transactions mo sa journal mo, sa ledger, sa disbursements journal. So as to how to do this, usually this is covered by an accounting session, no? How to prepare these journal entries. But if you want to use, you may say, Kim, I'm very good at Excel. Everything is being done via Excel. Can I use Excel to record my business transactions? The answer is yes, but you need to register that with the BIR. It's not automatic po, no? Especially if during your registration, ang na-register kasi default manual no? Manual. So if you will be using Excel, then make sure you register loose leaf, no? Loose leaf, books of accounts, right? Okay. Loose leaf, books of accounts before the BIR, okay? And if everything is computerized, so you will say, I am using a computerized accounting system to record everything. In such case, you will have to, uh, then you will have to register with the BIR your so-called CAS or computerized accounting system. Okay. Now, more common than that, manual tayo, no? Especially for small and micro businesses. So the problem now is we hire a bookkeeper, no, who is keeping our books, but that bookkeeper have their own computer, either has their own computerized accounting system, or they'll be using Excel. No? So always be clear with that bookkeeper. Sino ba yung mag-i-enter dito sa books of accounts ko? Kasi I am manual. No, I don't want to be penalized by the BIR because there is a corresponding penalty po if there is no entry, no, in our books of accounts. And there is even another penalty if we use loosely or we use computerized accounting system without authority coming from the BIR. And we don't want to pay, of course, these unnecessary penalties. No? So again, manual, yung isa is loosely, and the other one, of course, is the computerized accounting system or CAS. No? So these are the different types of books of accounts. Question, Kim, I'm using Excel. Can I enter in the Excel and then just print it and then paste it in these books of accounts? The answer po is no. No? So the BIR already made it clear that it is not the same as manual books. So ang gusto ni BIR is mano-mano yung pagsulat. No? So, better discuss with your bookkeeper or you do it yourself in recording your receipts, your disbursements, say for example. Now, who will keep your books of accounts? Sino yung dapat may access, no, sa books of accounts mo? Saan mo to dapat itatago? As much as possible po, if you are leasing a space or if you have a sales area, then your books of accounts should be kept there. It should not be placed somewhere else. Why? Because during tax mapping, this is something, no, that the BIR will look into. No? So the BIR will ask, oh, do you have BIR COR, Certificate of Registration? Are you issuing invoice? Do you have your books of accounts? Is it properly stamped by the BIR? Okay? Now, kailangan ba i-renew ang books of accounts mo every year? If it is manual, there is no requirement. No? The requirement for manual books of accounts is you will only have to buy and register the new manual books of accounts if the existing books of accounts are already used up. Pag puno na po yung record natin. No? So it's a bit different for loose leaf and CAS because there are updating requirements that needs to be done under the regulations. Okay, so that's for the books of accounts. Next is your notice to issue invoice. All right, those who are registered, I think you're very familiar with this green one. Before this is orange, no, but last year BIR changed the format. They changed it to this establishment must issue receipt or invoice. And very clear here what are the consequences if the establishment fails to issue valid invoice. It could lead to imprisonment, and the non-issuance of receipt or invoice can even lead to closure, no, of your business. All right. Take note though, under Section 35 of the Ease of Paying Taxes, there is now, before kasi, if the sales mo is not exceeding 100 pesos, there is no requirement, no, to issue invoice or receipt. Basically, exempted ka. But now, under EOPT, they increased the threshold, no? If or so long as not exceeding 500 pesos, the sale and transfer of merchandise or for services rendered valued then you can be excused, no, in not issuing the invoice. Okay. Now you may say, ah, that's very good. However, there is a caveat. No? There is a caveat under the new law. The caveat is that although if it does not exceed 500, and you can validly say na I am not mandated, no, to issue invoice or receipt for that. However, the law provides that if the customer demands, no, or if the customer requests that you issue an invoice, then you must do so regardless of the amount. Because of course, that like us, we do field work, right? We eat at a carinderia, let's say for example, we will have to liquidate it, no, to our clients, no, as to these expenses. So no matter how small the expense we eat, let's say for example at 100 or 150, we really have to request for an invoice. So the law says if the client or the customer requests for the invoice, then you are still required to issue that invoice. Now, if there is no request, what will happen? The law provides that you can actually aggregate your sales during the day and issue one invoice, no, just to document your sales for the day. Issue one invoice for the aggregated sales in excess of 500 pesos. Right? And another exception to the rule is if you are a VAT taxpayer. Okay? Kasi pag VAT taxpayer ka na, um, you are required talaga, no, to issue invoice regardless of the amount, especially if the buyer is also a VAT registered person. So in such case, this rule na pwedeng hindi mag-issue below 500 will not apply when it comes to value-added taxation. Now, Kim, you said okay lang, hindi mag-issue. Does that mean I will not anymore record it in my books of accounts? Of course, hindi po. No? So you will still record it in your books of accounts kasi after all, that's still part of your sales. Otherwise, hindi magtutugma yung i-declare mo with the BIR. No? So the usual recording still follows. This is just more on the issuance of the invoice. Okay? So I hope that is clear, including the exceptions. No? So, because I have some mentees, they're very happy. And well, I'm also very happy. But let's take note on the exceptions. Number one, pag mag-request si kliyente, we need to issue regardless of the amount. And number two, if it is a VAT transaction. No? Kasi we need to break out or break up the 12% VAT. And the purchaser in such case, diba, can claim the VAT paid as input VAT. And he can only claim that as input VAT if it is supported by official invoice or official receipt. Okay? Yeah, this one. This is a new amendment also under the ease of paying taxes. No? Ease of paying taxes. So before, when it comes to sale of goods or properties, sales invoice, yung primary support natin, di ba? For sale of service, official receipt. No? So depende kasi yun, the nature of our business. If you're into selling of goods, items, di ba? So we have sales invoice. Now, under the ease of paying taxes, please note po, it is already being simplified. There is no more requirement. The official receipt will now be replaced with sales invoice. Sales invoice primarily will be the supporting document for every sale of goods, properties, services, use or lease of property. So primarily ang affected nito are those businesses who were previously issuing OR. So basically, it will now also be SI or sales invoice for taxation purposes. Okay, for taxation purposes. Now, the common question that we get here is this already effective at this point? Kasi the Ease of Paying Taxes Act po, this took effect last January 22. No? Timing to when PA and the Go Negosyo team asked me, no, to do this session. So I have to immediately accept the invite. Thank you, by the way, Go Negosyo team, for the invite, no, so that this can already be relayed to you. Okay, so it took effect January 22, 2024. But do take note, provisions on VAT and other percentage taxes is not yet effective po. Kasi there is a provision under the law that there has to have an implementing regulation that the DOF will have to issue, and the taxpayers are given 90 days transitory period, no, to adjust to that new provision. So applicable to especially for those with existing who are issuing official receipts. No, it doesn't mean right now change that to sales invoice, because definitely we are still waiting for BIR's guidance how to, you know, how are we going to surrender the existing OR? Are we going to destroy the existing OR? So these are some things that the BIR will provide expectedly guidance to us. No? So as to timeline, the law took effect January 22, but the VAT provisions and the OPT provisions where this invoicing requirement is contained, uh, again, will take effect after the issuance of the revenue regulation or the implementing regulation. The BAR is given, I think if I'm not mistaken, around uh, 90 days to do that. So expectedly, there should be already a regulation on or before around April 11, 2024. And then after that, once we have that regulation, the taxpayers are still given um, several months to um, transition, no, to transition. Okay, so that's on the invoice. Then, of course, before the invoice, we have the ATP, the Authority to Print Receipts and Invoices. So the application that we do there is BIR Form 1906, and this is basically your example of your authority to print, which you will provide to the printer na dapat registered with the BIR. So the description for the receipts or invoices. Now, please do take note, ma'ams and sirs, that when it comes to BIR documentation, although I mentioned a while back that primarily it will now be sales invoice, no, pursuant to the Ease of Paying Taxes Act. Meron po tayong tinatawag na principal, no, document. So we have the principal and we have the supplementary, no. So for the principal, now, because of the new law, the principal now will only be the sales invoice or the SI, regardless of what you are selling, whether goods man yan or service. But do take note, we also have the supplementary or the secondary documents. Okay? Like say for example, yung mga delivery receipts nyo, no? Or yung acknowledgement receipt nyo, or yung mga memos nyo, no? Or siguro this time around, OR, no? Can be considered supplementary, especially because for accounting purposes, there's not much of change. Kasi sa accounting, we still use OR, di ba, to recognize receipt of cash. No? So, but from principal, it will be relegated na to supplementary. And in such case, para makaprint ka, you still need to get ATP or Authority to Print Receipts from the BIR. No? The ATP, you get it from your RDO or the Revenue District Officer. Kaya very important ang COR kasi doon natin malalaman saang RDO tayo na what RDO we belong to. No? So that's your ATP. Once you have that, you present that to your publisher, and your publisher will basically print your invoice. All right? So this is your invoice. Two things we need to remember here. If you are not VAT registered, meaning to say, in your COR, that it's not value-added tax, it's percentage tax, then you do not issue a VAT registered invoice. Okay? It has to be what? It has to be non-VAT registered invoice. Kaya ang nakalagay po dyan, if you are VAT registered, on the topmost portion, if you notice here, no? If you notice on the topmost portion dito, may nakalagay dito, VAT registered TIN. Okay? Your complete business name as well as your business style if you have, and then your address. And because this is VAT, then of course, there should be a breakdown for value added tax, 12% portion. Always remember, as much as possible, the lines in the invoice will have to be filled up when the sales transaction occurred. No? So you must specify there who is your customer. You must specify the TIN, the address, if the customer is senior citizen or PWD or single parent, single mother, say for example, then the number must be specified as well as the signature. Then you have to have, of course, the articles, description, the unit price, and the amount, and the authority here. Okay? This is for VAT registered teen. How about for non-VAT? Well, more or less for non-VAT, it's just the same. It's just that there is an indication at the topmost portion that it is non-VAT registered TIN. And of course, since non-VAT registered TIN, there is no portion for the 12% VAT. We don't charge VAT in such case. Otherwise, we will be penalized also by the BIR. Okay? If we grant the discount, then specify the senior citizen and PWD discount, and of course, specify the withholding that is any. Right? And same thing as discussed a while back. Right? So again, when it comes to the principal document to support the transaction, primarily it will now be the sales invoice. Okay, so that's your, so ilan na yun? COR, books of accounts, ATP, and of course your invoice. Okay. The next question that we need to address at this point is, so you already have those items, no? So more or less confident ka na kasi may ano ka na din, notice to issue invoice, no? The COR, the notice to issue invoice, that must be, as we very well know, that must be displayed, no, in a conspicuous area of your place of business. And whenever there is tax mapping, these are the things that the tax mapper or the revenue officer will have to look at. Okay? So we now go to the substantive part when it comes to tax compliance. How will you be taxed? All right? So the very first thing that we need to understand here is, ano ba yung business natin? Is our business sole prop or is our business corporation? Kasi different po ang tax rules natin if our business is sole proprietorship versus if our business is a corporation. Okay? The very common indicator that you are a sole proprietor business is, of course, if you are registered with the Department of Trade and Industry. No? But if you are already registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission, then that's the time that you can say that you are a juridical entity or you are a corporation. Let's give special emphasis first to individual income tax because I think majority of us here, oh, it's already 200 plus, no? Majority of us here online are sole proprietors, no? Self-employed, business income earner, or professional income earner. So as individual taxpayers, ano po yung tax liabilities natin? Or ano po yung tax types natin primarily, no? So you will have income tax, okay? And you will have business tax, okay? Insofar as BIR is concerned, iba pa po yung local business tax that you will pay to your local government unit. So for this afternoon, I'll just focus muna kasi hindi tayo matatapos if we will be discussing everything, no? So I'll just focus first with the BIR. Let's go first to income tax and of course your business tax. When we talk of income tax, it's an option between the graduated rate 0 to 35%, to po yun, meaning to say 0% if your taxable income do not exceed 250,000. The maximum is 35% if your net income already exceeds 8 million, no? Or, all right, or 8%, okay? But not all self-employed individual can avail of the option to be taxed at 8%, no? This again is only available under two conditions. If you are not VAT registered, meaning tingnan mo yung COR mo dyan, dapat percentage tax yan, di ba? And so it's an and, no? No, actually it's an and or, no? And or your gross sales do not exceed 3 million. Kasi pwede naman, even if your gross sales do not exceed 3 million, you're still VAT registered. Kasi because nga prior to create law, prior to increasing the threshold, mababa yung threshold ni VAT before, no? So ang nangyari before, there are some business establishments who already breached the lower threshold prior to increasing it to 3M. Kaya VAT registered sila. Um, and of course, currently, if you already exceed 3 million, automatic po yun, ha? Even if you did not update your registration with the BIR, and it is found out by the BIR that your gross sales already exceed 3 million, you are automatically covered under the VAT system. Unless, of course, yung transaction mo is VAT exempt. Okay? Kasi may mga transactions po tayo na VAT exempt. Like if you are into selling of agricultural food and marine product. That's a common example na kahit more than 3M ka na, you will not be covered under the VAT system. Okay? So, in such case, if you meet these two conditions, you have the option to avail of the 8% tax on your gross sales in excess of 250,000. This is in lieu of other percentage tax. All right? What do we mean by in lieu of other percentage tax? Meaning to say, dito po kasi you will be filing tax return, no? 1701Q or 1701A. There will be no more 2551Q. This is the form for the percentage tax if you avail of 8%. Okay? Pero, as will be emphasized later, dapat the option to be taxed at 8% should be coordinated or communicated na prior to the first quarterly filing. Kasi the default is the 0 to 35%. So if it is 0 to 35%, the BIR will expect that you will file your 1701Q quarterly and your 1701A annually on or before April 15. Plus, all right, on a quarterly basis, your percentage tax, which is usually 3%, 2551Q. Okay, so itong dalawang form. Okay, the good thing now is both will have to be done quarterly. Okay, so there's no need to worry mag-monthly ka ba or mag-quarterly. Okay, later on though, we will discuss about withholding tax. Okay, how to compute, of course, this is already the formula there, no? We have the tax base, and then of course, we will check saang bracket pasok yung taxable income natin, and we will follow the formula. Okay? Kung magkano yung annual tax liability natin. Deducted to your annual tax liability are of course the tax credits, no? Yung mga tax withheld by your clients or tax withheld by your customers. Okay, so that's on graduated versus 8%. So to emphasize again, if not exceeding 3M, either 8% in lieu of graduated and percentage tax, or 0 to 35 graduated plus the 3% percentage tax. However, the moment your gross sales will exceed 3 million, then that would be 0 to 35 option na lang plus the 12% VAT, because the moment you exceed 3 million, as mentioned a while back, you are already mandatorily covered under the VAT system. So in such case, what will happen is you will have 1701 and you will have 2550Q, no, which is the BIR form or the tax return for the value-added tax. Okay, so dalawa yung ifa-file. Okay, so that's clear. Next is on the period. Okay, the next question, as mentioned a while back, klaro na tayo dun sa conditions. The question now is when should the choice to be taxed at 8% be made? No? Always remember, the choice to be taxed at 8% must be made in the first quarter return. Meron po diyang portion that you need to click, na parang circle, no, that you need to click, that you will avail of 8%. Otherwise, if you do not specify, matik po yun, the default will be the 0 to 35%. Okay? Again, it cannot be availed by VAT-registered taxpayers and taxpayers subject to other percentage tax like amusement tax and partners of general professional partnership. Those exercising their profession, say for example, partners in accounting firms, in architect architectural firm, in law firms that are registered as GPP or General Professional Partnership. Okay? So to emphasize, if you chose 8% in the first quarter, automatic that will apply to 8% for the entire year. If 0 to 35, then that applies 0 to 35 for the entire year. If there is no choice, again, the default is 0 to 35%. Okay? The next question now is, kasi di ba, sabi natin for 8% that applies so long as your gross sales do not exceed 3 million. No? The next question now is, what if my gross sales already exceed 3 million? Hindi naman pwede sabihin mo, I won't sell anymore to you kasi baka mag-exceed na ako ng 3 million. Matax na ako at 0 to 35%. Of course, that doesn't make sense because we're doing business, di ba? The higher the sales, the better for the business. So the question now is, what if during the year, nag-exceed ka na ng 3 million? This will not prevent you from doing that. But the rule is, if you chose 8% first quarter, the moment or during the month that you exceed the 3 million, you will already be disqualified from claiming the 8%. Automatic, you will be covered under 0 to 35%, the graduated tax rate. Okay? So, if we are going to further, further illustrate your options as individual taxpayer, kasi ito basically, tax planning somehow, no? And, on what option you can legally minimize your tax liability. No? Option 1, so long as you do not exceed 3 million, again, we look at 3 million here. So long as you do not exceed the threshold of 3 million, you have 3 options. Option 1, 2, and 3. Option 1, 8%, we multiply that diretso to your gross sales or gross receipts. But I prefer to use the term gross sales na because again, under the EOPT, it's now moving to the term gross sales, no? Gross sales. Whether you're into sale of goods or into sale of service. So 8% will be multiplied to your gross sales in excess of 250, meaning the gross sales mo minus 250 times 8%. No deduction whatsoever. Okay? So that will be the amount that will be indicated in your BIR Form 1701. There will be no filing of percentage tax return. Okay? Your option 2, if you do not want the 8%, if you opt for 0 to 35, you still have option to choose from. Whether, kasi you will be allowed not to make deductions, no? So, your point of decision now is anong method of deduction. It can be itemized or it can be optional. So, optional po, automatic 40% yung i-deduct mo from your income, no? And usually, just to give you an idea, Kim, I don't know, what's my sort of parang guide, no? Whether I will be using OSD or itemized. Well, if you have lots of expenses, no, in your business, and that is properly substantiated, meaning to say you have invoices from your suppliers to support that, then do itemized deduction. Because of course, the higher your deduction, the lower will be your net taxable income. Diba? But if you're the type of business na hindi masyadong maraming expenses during the period, kasi pwede din yun mangyari. Diba? It could happen. I mean, if you're into leasing, let's say for example, basically you have minimal expenditures there, right? So maybe 40% is your best option. So this is a matter of planning somehow, no? On your end. No? Will I do itemized? In the itemized, you need to list down your expenses there. It has to be supported. Or will I do optional, standard deduction? If you do OSD, there's no need to list down your specific expenses and there's no need to substantiate for your expenses kasi nga, you're not claiming specific expenses. No? Same thing also somehow with the 8% option kasi no allowable deduction ka on these options. And then of course, multiply with the 0 to 35, go to the tax table as shown in the previous slide. And other than the 1701, you will be paying also the 3% percentage tax on your gross sales. Okay? And then iba pa dito again yung local business tax natin sa local government unit. Okay. Now, if you already exceed 3 million kasi VAT taxpayer ka na, you cannot anymore avail of 8%. Your option again is 0 to 35. But you can still decide what method of claiming your expenses will be used. Is it itemized or is it the 40% optional standard deduction? Same rule. Okay? Now, Kim, when do I tell the BIR that I want itemized or I want OSD? More or less same with the 8% option. You have to do it prior or during the first quarterly filing if you want optional standard deduction. Otherwise, the default is itemized deduction. Can you change during the taxable year the method of deduction from, say, uh, itemized, and then on the third quarter you change it to OSD? The answer is no. No? Whatever choice you made in the first quarter or you did not make, then that applies for the entire taxable year. So if you chose OSD first quarter, entire year, that's already OSD. You can change na lang the method of deduction in the following taxable year. Okay? So that's when you need to also analyze, did I get a benefit when I used OSD this year? Kasi pag marami pala akong expenses, di ba? Medyo nalugi ka on that side kasi marami ka pala expenses. Then make sure the following taxable year, you revert to itemized deduction. If you're not doing the filing of your tax return, you instruct that person. Stop na tayo sa OSD. Let's go to itemized. Here are my expenses and here are the supporting documents. Okay? It's just that if more than 3M na yung gross sales nyo po, instead of the OPT, you will be filing this time around 12% VAT return. Okay? So I hope I made that clear. All right? Yeah, so this is what I mentioned a while back. Choice must be made in the first quarter. And what will happen if middle of the taxable year, say for example, in this case, July 31, you already breached 3 million. Hindi naman pwedeng mag-stop operation ka kasi naka-3 ka na. No? Basically, that's good news to you, di ba? But for taxation purposes, as an individual proprietor, July 31 to December 31, if you notice there, you will now be covered or you will now be subject to VAT or value-added tax. In the computation of your annual, meaning from January 1 to December 31 income tax, 0 to 35% na, not anymore 8%. Okay? So what will happen in this case is that in the month, say for July 31 ka, so in the month, immediately following when you exceeded the threshold, which in this case is August, automatic, you will have to update your COR from percentage tax to value-added tax kasi nga you already exceeded 3 million. And remember, there was no payment of percentage tax from January 1 to July 1 kasi nga the 8% during this time is in lieu of the percentage tax, right? So what will happen now since you exceeded? By August, you will be filing percentage tax return covering the percentage tax payments from January to July 31 when you opted for the 8%. And then from August to December 31, since you will now update your COR to that of VAT taxpayer, then you're expected to file the VAT return. Okay, and of course, pay VAT on the succeeding receipts. Now, here, 0 to 35 ka. What will happen, Kim, to the 8% that I've been paying since January 1 up to the time when I exceeded the 3 million? You can actually deduct whatever you paid under the 8% option. You will have to compute the income tax on the accumulated income using the graduated income tax rates, again, because you exceeded already the 3 million, and deduct the 8% income tax paid from the previous quarters. In this case, you exceeded on the third quarter, kasi August. So meaning, first 2 quarters, 8% payment ka. So in such case, the previous 8% payment can be deducted. So to illustrate that, right, just to give you an idea how to do it, if let's say, for example, you have this, please don't be intimidated in the figures. I hope you won't be intimidated, but this is just cumulative. No, these are just the figures. No, quarterly sales and then the gross income and then the taxable income. If you notice in this case, quarter one, then 500,000, quarter two, another 500,000 was earned. So that this is already a total of 500 plus 500, that's a total of 1M. All right. Now, quarter three, 2M was earned. So 1M plus 2M, by quarter three, you already breached 3 million, but you did not exceed yet. No? So can you still in such case avail of, kasi first quarter, you opted na 8%. No? So in such case, pwede pa ba? The answer is yes, because it's still 3 million. But definitely for quarter four, you earned another 3 million. That makes your total sales for the year 6 million, which is way beyond 3 million threshold. So what does that mean? It means that for the entire year, you will be taxed at 0 to 35%. Pero may nabayaran ka, right, na 8% in the previous quarter. Oh, after computing the annual tax liability, just deduct the 8% option. Okay? So that what will happen now is, in computing your total sales, so you have your 6 million less the cost of sales, you get taxable income of 1,560,000. Go to the table there, you are able to compute annual tax liability of 358. But quarter one, quarter two, and quarter three, there were payments man at 8%. So you will have to deduct those payments. No? Hindi naman for the entire year papabayarin ka. No? And in such case, only this amount will be your annual income tax payable. Pero for quarter one, two, and three, remember, you did not pay percentage tax. So you will now be asked to pay percentage taxes, 3%, for whatever sales you earned in quarters 1, 2, and 3. Okay? And then for quarter 4, kaya meron dito 90,000. And then for quarter 4, that will be 12% value added tax. So here, what happens is that you will be filing 1701A, you will be filing 2550Q, and you will be filing also 2551Q. Oh, sorry. This is 2551, the percentage tax for the VAT, that's 2550Q. Okay? This one, the percentage tax, expectedly, this will have to be filed in the month when you already exceeded the threshold. Okay? So, if you have questions later on, please feel free to ask. Alright. So, punto, if hindi ka pa naka-exceed ng 3M, may 8% option ka na. But if you already exceeded 3 million, no more option for 8%. It will now entirely be 0 to 35%. Okay? For corporation, for information purposes, different po ang tax applicable for corporation. It's not the 0 to 35, it's 25%, 25% corporate income tax rate, or the lower rate of 20%. Right? The lower rate of 20%, this will apply po if your net taxable income will not exceed 5 million and your total assets will not exceed 100 million, excluding the land which your business office, plant, equipment are situated. Now you would say at this point, well, many of us are sole proprietors, Kim. Why bother discussing the regular corporate income tax rate? Because actually, this is something that you can take into consideration when you do tax planning. Because remember, for individual, let's go back to the table. For individual, okay, if you are already earning more than 8 million, magkano yung tax rate mo? Your tax rate is already 35%, right? Your tax rate is already 35%. No more option for the lower 8%, right? Because that's already above 8 million. Okay? So, the point now is, if you are a corporation, okay, or if you are a corporate entity, the flat rate there is only 20% or 25%. Okay? So what does that tell us? Okay? That is something worth considering on your end. If you are already a, I think this falls under medium, no, small, micro, small. In the new classification, okay, sorry, can you hear me? I'm getting a notice that there is no audio. I hope I can be heard.
You could hear him, attorney.
Okay, sige. All right, thank you, Miss Jera. Thank you po. Okay, so maybe it's the audio on the other end, no? Pa-adjust na lang po. Again, going back, no? So for individual, if you already exceeded 8 million, you will already be taxed at 35%, right? There's no more option for 8% of that. But if you're a corporation, the tax rate there, and this is based on the net income, this is not based on the gross. The tax rate there is 25% lang or 20%. The catch lang for corporation is that other than these regular tax rates, this will be compared to what we call as the MSIT or the minimum corporate income tax rate, which is equivalent to 2% of the gross income. Sa gross income naman, may deduction po siya, but generally the deductions there are directly related, no, to the generation of your sales. But the thing is, 25% is 25%. That's 10% lower than 35%. More so, 20% is lower than 35%. Pero ito, kasi may condition not exceeding 5 million. So at most 25%. So that's worth considering. If you're already, say for example, 10 million in a year, net, might as well think, ano ba yung proper? Do I still remain or will I now incorporate? So that's one thing that you can do high-level tax planning. Okay, so yun. So 25 or 20%. Other than the 25 or 20%, as mentioned, corporations are also subject to the minimum corporate income tax of 2%. But this minimum corporate income tax of 2% will apply beginning on the fourth taxable year. On the fourth taxable year from the date of registration. Meaning to say, if the date of registration in the BIR-COR is 2024, so just plus 4. No? So that's the time that your minimum corporate income tax will be compared to your regular corporate income tax. Whichever is higher, that's the amount that you will be paying to the BIR. Okay? The rest, basically the computation aspect, as I mentioned, that's 2% of the gross income at the end of every quarter. No? And if the MSIT is higher than your regular corporate income tax, then you pay the minimum corporate income tax. Pero yung excess ng minimum corporate income tax over the regular corporate income tax, the 25%, can be carried over to the next 3 succeeding periods, no, or succeeding years, no, provided next 3 succeeding years you are subject na to the regular corporate income tax. Okay, so this is an option that you may take into consideration. All right, let's move on to tax return. Bilis ng oras, it's already 3:19. All right. So for the tax return, I just prepared here a summary for your reference. If you're an individual, sole proprietor, or business income earner, again, you are expected to pay income tax, which is filed quarterly, on or before May 15 for the first quarter, on or before August 15 for the second, and on or before November 15 for the third quarter, and of course, annual on before April 15. No? So for 2023, on before April 15, 2024, yung deadline of filing. The BIR form that you will use is 1701Q for the quarterly filing and 1701A for the annual filing. Okay? The business tax aspect, it's either percentage tax or the VAT. Same rule when it comes to filing. We file them quarterly within 25 days from the close of the taxable quarter. You use 2551Q for the percentage tax and 2550Q for the VAT. Okay? Now, let's be clear for VAT. Please take note po, yung mandatory filing ng VAT while we speak is quarterly na. Okay? Pero there is this circular from the BIR which allows monthly filing, no, of the VAT, if only to manage your cash flow. Kasi yung ibang taxpayers nagrereklamo. Kasi nga, if they file quarterly, masyadong malaki na yung i-remit or effect sa cash flow nila. No? So there is voluntary monthly filing for VAT. In such case, you will just use 2550M. But nevertheless, wala namang penalty po if from monthly, naka-decide ka next quarter, I'll just file quarterly. No? What is mandated is dapat may quarterly filing. Okay? And then of course, if you have employees, you will on their compensation. Diba? So in such case, you are expected to file 1601C on or before the 10th day of the month following the month of withholding. And for the expanded or creditable withholding tax, like say for example, yung sa withholding tax ng rent, which is 5%, 1601 EQ. Same deadline, monthly filing of the tax return. Okay? What forms to use? If you are an individual taxpayer, as mentioned a while back, quarterly 1701Q, annual 1701A. No? Yung BIR Form 1701, this is applicable for mixed income earner. No? If you have salary from compensation and at the same time, if you have salary from business or exercise of profession. No? Otherwise, if you are purely from business or profession lang, then 1701A or 1701A. Okay? All right. So for the deadline, as I mentioned, the annual deadline for the ITR is April 15, the first quarter, May 15, second, August 15, and third quarter, November 15. Take note po, maybe may naririnig kayo, oh, ano ka ba, calendar year or fiscal year? Take note po, for individual taxpayer, there is no such thing as fiscal year. So for individual filers, calendar po tayo lahat. So meaning to say, we start January 1, we end December 31. Yung fiscal year, which begins in dates other than January 1 and ends in a date other than December 31, that is primarily applicable po for corporation or corporate taxpayers. Okay, just to avoid confusion. Kaya matik po, deadline natin April 15. Okay, so for corporation, there is a requirement again, final or adjustment corporation return, to reporting the total taxable income for the calendar or the fiscal year. And for your information purposes, yung BIR form po natin is 1702 for corporation. Either EX, meaning to say exempt ka, MX, meaning corporation subject to mixed rate ka, kasi subject ka to the regular rate of 25%, but you have a project registered with BOI, say for example, na subject to a special rate of 5%, so 1702MX will be used, no? Or 1702RT. RT stands for regular tax rates, no? Or regular transactions, no? Meaning to say subject to the regular tax rate of 20, 25, or 20%, no? You don't have any project registered with any investment promotions agency. Okay? Yeah, so you have that 1702EX, 1702MX, and 1702 RT. Okay? Deadline for corporation on or before the 15th day of the fourth month following the close of the fiscal year or the calendar year if it's on calendar year. Okay? Now, for EBIR forms, this is applicable, no? So as mentioned a while back, you can do manual filing and payment or electronic filing and payment or EBIR forms payment. Please do take note po, if you are a large taxpayer, top 5,000 individual taxpayer, or if your paid up capital is more than 10 million as a corporation, or you are registered with fiscal incentives with the BOI or the PEZA, generally you are required to do electronic filing and payment, EFTS. No? Default though for micro and small enterprises, manual filing and payment. No? So how do we do this? Of course, we use for manual, we use the electronic. Okay, we use the electronic or computer generated returns or photocopied returns, and we go to the authorized agent bank or revenue collection officer. However, take note, under again the EOPT, we can now file, right? We can now file and pay anywhere, right? So expectedly by April 15, they should not be strict when it comes to the authorized agent bank. Kasi dapat, di ba, before we have to file in the authorized agent bank authorized by our own RD. Okay? But please do take note, in the BIR forms, you will still need to fill in there or fill up there what RDO you belong to. No? Same for EFPS, Electronic Filing and Payment System. If you're registered, then you're still expected to follow the filing and payment requirements under the EFPS system. No? But basically for manual filing, there is that favorable EOPT or ease of paying taxes provision. Okay, so I hope we are clear on that. Next point is on the online payment channels. No? So we have Land Bank, DBP, Union Bank. We have mobile payments. Just recently, I think GCash hindi na daw. No? So I'm not sure. I think PayMaya is still there, and there is a new payment facility that the BIR also authorized. So you can use that for payment, no? And there is no need for registration in such case. Right? So that's your compliance and year and reminders, no? Especially for the upcoming filing of our tax returns. Time check, it's already 3:27. I only have until 3:45. So let's try to discuss the important aspects also. All right? We move on to the tips and techniques. First thing that you need to remember is, of course, proper accounting and bookkeeping could lead to um, avoidance when it comes to tax penalties, no? Because that means you have your appropriate record. And in such case, when you do this accounting properly, you can very check what are your tax deductions. You can maximize your tax deductions, and you can claim it as a deduction from your taxable income, no? With proper supporting document. And of course, it gives you a clear picture where your money in the business is going to. Very also, one important aspect when it comes to proper accounting and bookkeeping is the separation, no, of your business from personal transactions, your business bank account from your personal bank account. And the importance of this, we will discuss towards the end of this session, is that especially for online sellers now, no, the BIR issued an ROC which actually requires that if you are an online seller, you must have a business bank account. No? All the payments from the digital platform must go to that so-called business bank account of yours, not to your personal bank account. So that's one thing that we have to prepare. No? But I think I cannot overemphasize the importance of this one because what you will record are only the business transactions. What you will deduct from your taxable income are only the business expenses, not your personal expenses. Otherwise, BIR could question, no, your tax return, to some extent, if you have financial statement, your financial statements. All right. Know the right option in computing your taxable income. As mentioned a while back, know when to claim itemized deduction or optional standard deduction. This is your choice. So you need to understand magkano yung percentage ni OSD, which is primarily 40% of your gross sales or gross receipts. Here, there is no need of invoice or OR. No? But in itemized deduction, there should be primary substantiation in such case. So whatever works best for you, then choose wisely. No? And the choice must be done during the first quarterly filing. And once you make the choice again, you cannot anymore change midway during the taxable year. You can only change your choice the following taxable year, right? So that's just an example on how you do the simulation. No? Example here, if your revenue is 5M, you have cost of 2.5, your itemized deduction is ano lang, only 500,000. So your tax due 25%. This is for corporation, no? Of course, more or less the same for individuals. 25%, 500,000. But if you do optional standard deduction, which is 40% of your gross profit in such case, okay? So 40% of your gross profit or 2.5 times 25%. So that will give you a tax of only 375, which is substantially lower than 500,000. No? One thing pa pala na I need to emphasize, different ang tax base for the 40%, no? For individual corporation. Kasi for corporation, we base it on the gross profit or the gross income, meaning to say net of the cost of services. No? But for individual business taxpayers, under the provisions of the code, the 40% will be based on your gross sales, no? Gross sales. Kaya expectedly, medyo mas malaki siya when it comes to the OSD deduction for individuals. But of course, still check if baka malaki din yung itemized deductions, right? The taxpayer again must signify his intention in the return to avail of OSD by checking the appropriate box in the ITR forms. And by checking, as mentioned, in the income tax return filed for the first quarter of the taxable year. Okay. Third point, maximize your allowable deduction. Understand what are your expenses. That's very important in doing our business. Again, when it comes to allowable deductions, very crucial because the BIR is strict in monitoring the deductions that you claim from your income. Take note of the word allowable, meaning to say there are some expenses that you can deduct for accounting purposes that is even not allowed for taxation. No? Because for taxation, these are the general requisites. Your deduction must be ordinary and necessary. It must be paid or incurred during the taxable year, paid or incurred in carrying on or which are directly attributable to the development of your business, reasonable in amount, substantiated with sufficient evidence, and it must not be contrary to law or public policy. Okay? In my classes, we usually use the mnemonic here, sort of a Latin word, no, para easier for us to remember the allowable deductions and the pertinent rules there too. We usually use the mnemonic exenta loba. Okay, hindi ko na siya masulat. Exenta loba. Let's change this. Okay. All right. Nevertheless, we use exenta loba charipen debdeb or expenses, interest, taxes, losses, bad debts, charitable contributions, research and development costs, pensions, and depreciation and depletion. So these are the more common allowable deductions, no? That you can claim. Exenta loba siya re pen debdeb, right? So that it will be easier for you to remember. No? Expenses, interest, of course, on the loans that you get for the business, not on personal loans. Taxes, not all taxes can be deducted, but there are taxes that you can deduct. We will discuss later on. Losses, bad debts, these are your uncollectibles. Charitable contributions, research costs, pensions, debt depreciation, the second debt depletion which applies to wasting assets sa mga mining. No? But more common than that, in our case, we have the depreciation. Although yung itong depreciation expense, this is an expense na uh, we don't have, we don't normally, no, claim kasi we don't have lapsing schedule or we don't have monitoring of our depreciable assets. So this is something that you may have to take into consideration, no? For your equipment sa business mo, if you have vehicle in the business, then might as well subject it to depreciation expense. Okay? So very quick reminders as regards to these expenses, no? For budgets, let's say for example, here you are saying somebody nangutang sa akin, all right? And he or she did not anymore pay to me, therefore I have to write it off, which is why it becomes budget, it becomes worthless. Do take note there are strict requirements under the tax code. What are these? Number one, it should actually be ascertained as worthless or uncollectible. Meaning to say, there has to have efforts of collection on your end. You've sent demand letter, but still you did not get any payment from that client. Or worse, the client filed already a bankruptcy, no, proceeding before the regular court. So that tells you na um, deficient na siya. No? Uh, that client cannot anymore meet the obligation. And it must not be a sustained transaction between related parties. Okay? Inventory losses also, it's not automatic that you can deduct inventory losses. There has to have a certification, no, application that you have to get from the BIR. This is common especially for merchandise, no, na expire na, let's say for example, and you need to dispose it or you need to destroy it. No? Ito po, this is the rule for inventory destruction. You may refer to RMO 21-2020. Okay? Interest expense, again, if you earn interest income in a bank deposit, your interest expense deduction must be reduced by 20% of the interest income subjected to final tax. This is applicable for corporations. This is, however, not applicable for corporations under the rate of 20%. And of course, the rule that the interest expense must not be sustained between related parties. And then, of course, rental expense, the actual rental expense must be claimed as a deduction. If you claim entertainment, amusement, and representation expenses, take note of the ceiling 0.5% and 1%. If you are into sale of goods, 0.5. If you are into sale of service, 1%. For donations, there's a limit, 5% for corporate donors and 10% for individual donors. No? Pero if ang donee mo po is the government or accredited donee institution, then it can be deducted fully. No? Or a PCNC accredited institution, then it can be deducted fully. Do take note lang of supporting documents that you need to have. The BIR form as well as the notice of donation. Okay? Retirement expenses. No? This is for our employees. Always remember when it comes to deduction of retirement expense, there is a requirement that your retirement plan must be duly approved by the BIR. If approved by the BIR, you can deduct whatever contributions you make to the retirement plan. You will have there the current cost and the past service cost, which will be amortized over 10 years. You can make those deductions. But if there is no BIR approval, you cannot deduct the premium that you pay, no, to the retirement plan. You can only do the deduction if there is actual payment once an employee actually retires from service. Okay, so that's for retirement expense. For taxes, as I mentioned a while back, not all taxes are deductible. Only taxes for documentary stamp tax or local business tax, yung binabayad natin sa local government unit, or fringe benefits tax or percentage tax are deductible. No? Income tax, VAT, donors, state, these are not deductible taxes. Okay? And of course, depreciation. No? This is applied to assets which are considered depreciable or subject to wear and tear. Right? And you can have the net operating loss carryover. If in your computation, your expenses or allowable deduction is higher than your sales, then it results to an operating loss. So in such case, it can be carried, there is a provision in the tax code that it can be carried over to the next 3 consecutive taxable years, right? So, except if the operating loss was incurred in 2020 or 2021 during the pandemic. No? So may provision po na it can be carried over to the next 5 taxable year. Meaning to say, i-deduct nyo po siya on the tax liability that you've computed for the next 5 taxable years. Right? So again, tax assessment lookout, you have to maintain sufficient supporting documents for claimed expenses. Always ensure to reconcile your expenses claimed in the tax return and claimed in your financial statements if you're preparing one. And maintain supporting documents for withholding taxes if you withheld or if there is withholding tax exemption of the expenses. Right? Maintain a compliance checklist. If you can prepare one, the better. No? Checking kung ano na yung na-prepare mo, na-calculate mo na ba itong particular tax payment, etc. Another thing is be updated. No? So, what's new and what's next? So, attending sessions like this with Go Negosyo is actually a good exercise on your end so that you will be able to, well, network, that's one, and of course, be updated as to what is the current regulations when it comes to taxation. Kasi po, sa taxation, unlike any other laws, almost every month, merong regulation or circular that may affect your business. All right? And with that, I'm given only 10 minutes. Let me to what's the latest, no? So again, what's the latest now when it comes to the BIR priority program is that our new commissioner is now looking for or is now personally supervising the run after fake transactions, which is being na tinututukan no, ng Office of the Commissioner. So this run against fake transactions basically looks at transactions na hindi naman nangyari but supported by a legitimate receipt or legitimate invoice. No? As practiced by some, they just purchased this invoice, making it appear that they have these purchases when in fact it did not happen. So please do not do that. It is already being monitored by the National Office of the Bureau of Revenue. Right? Then the Ease of Paying Taxes Act, I just summarize it here for your reference. In our case, for small and medium enterprises, there are now 4 classifications of taxpayers under the Ease of Paying Taxes Act. We now have the micro taxpayer if your gross sales do not exceed 3 million. We have the small taxpayer if your sales is 3 million to not more than 20 million. We have mid taxpayer if your sales is 20 million to not more than 1 billion. And we have the large taxpayer if 1 billion above. So we now have these classifications. What's the use of these classifications? The use is that if you belong to micro, okay, micro and small taxpayer, there are some concessions, no? Meaning to say, if there are administrative violations committed, there is a reduction of their penalties, no? So instead of the usual surcharge na 25%, say for example, they will only be charged at 10%. So meron pong reduced penalties. And the tax return that will be filed by these micro and small taxpayers, 2 pages na lang po. So simplified tax return. No? As mentioned a while back, file and pay anywhere. Simplified timing of withholding taxes under the EOPT. What is the simplified timing? The rule is you will only withhold when the income is already payable. No? So that's the time that the withholding will happen under the EOPT. Okay? Ease of registration and update. So as you may already know, last January 22, the BIR already stopped collecting for the renewal, no? BIR registration that's already removed under the Ease of Paying Taxes. Preservation of books of accounts under the EOPT, it's now 5 years. So you have to preserve your books in 5 years. And there is a provision under the EOPT that even if you fail to withhold on that particular expense, that will not necessarily disallow the deduction of that expense. Basta bayad pa din yung appropriate na withholding tax. It doesn't mean na hindi ka na mag-withhold at all. So if makita yon during audit ni BIR, like rent expense, say for example, you did not withhold the 5%, what will happen during audit is that BIR will ask you to pay the 5% withholding tax and allow you na to deduct the rental as deduction from your income. Okay? 5 minutes, Ms. Jem, I'll just finish this one. Extension, right? Of course, SSS increase. Do take note, there is an increase now on the SSS contribution as well as the PhilHealth contribution. No? So yung running joke nga ng iba is that during New Year, your prayer is to have salary increase yung nangyari. Yung SSS and PhilHealth mo yung nag-increase. No? So, well, on the side of the employee, this is on the side of the employee and on the side of the employer. No? So if we are the employer, always remember our contribution to these SSS and PhilHealth, that is allowable deduction. No? Basta employer's contribution, not the employee's contribution. Right? Reminder also, we have RR1-2023. This is on the grant of 10% discount and VAT exemption for solo parents. No? The solo parents with child or children of 6 years or under and earning less than 250,000 annually can apply before the DSWD. No? That he is a solo parent. No? And that basically the ID can be used to claim 10% discount and VAT exemption on purchase of these items. Hindi naman po lahat. No? Ito lang na items. Baby's milk, food supplement, diapers, medicines, vaccines, and other medical supplements, understandably for the child or the children. No? On the side of the business owner, if you grant the 10% discount, more or less same sa senior citizens and PWD, no? It will be deductible on the side of the business owner granting the discount. Basta, the documentation, if you're the business owner, is check the identification card. Dapat may ID. It's not a matter of, declaring to you that I am a solo parent, no? And that there has to have a solo parent booklet. Kasi nga, it will have to be assessed if indeed qualified siya. May anak ba siya na below 6 and earning ba siya less than 250,000 annually. Okay? So, yun. Then we have RMC 29-2023. This is on the clarification pertaining to cannot be located taxpayers. And I have to include this one because, there is this usual normal reaction, no? Normal reaction na if we've been assessed by the BIR, we try to transfer our location, no? Like let's say for example, we receive an assessment from the bureau, and then what you will do is natakot ka. So what you will do, you close shop in this particular locality, you just transfer in another locality, no? Without informing the BIR. Take note po, and we go back to the COR, if you do not update your address in the COR, even if you transfer your actual place of business, the BIR can still send you notice on that registered address in the COR. And that notice is still considered valid notice. Kaya pwede ka pa rin in default, no? When it comes to the filing of the protest. If the BIR cannot locate you, kasi nga nagtago ka, you're doing business in another location, you did not update your COR, the tendency is the BIR will tag you as a CBL taxpayer. What do you mean by CBL taxpayer? Cannot be located taxpayer. And if you are tagged as cannot be located taxpayer, automatic po yun. The prescriptive period to assess and collect will be suspended. or will stop until you are found. Okay? Now, the other way around is this RMC requires yung katransaksyon ni CBL taxpayer. So in essence, this RMC is requiring na if you're transacting with somebody or a business which is tagged as cannot be located taxpayer, you are mandated to report it to the BIR. Otherwise, whatever purchases you have with the CBL taxpayer, whether related to cost of sales or operating expenses, for income taxation computation cannot be deducted. Or if it is with VAT component, you cannot claim the input VAT if that transaction pertains to a CBL taxpayer, unless you can prove the existence of the supplier, meaning sa report mo nga, no? Tagged as CBL by the BIR and the authenticity of the purchases, right? Kim, how do we know that the taxpayer is cannot be located? Meron pong link sa BIR website. No? You check, there is a hyperlink of cannot be located taxpayer. Check mo po yon, baka hopefully not, nandun yung pangalan mo. So hopefully not. If ever your name is listed there as cannot be located, go diretso to your respective RDO where you register and check what are your open cases that needs to be settled. Okay. So in short, let's be careful kung sino yung katransaction natin. No? We don't want that their problem, kasi cannot be located na nga sila, becomes our or your problem. Okay? And usually, ito yung remedy ni BIR if, again, hindi niya makita or ma-serve yung notices of assessment to that particular taxpayer. Last point, hindi pala, second to the last, this is on the issuance of receipt or commercial invoices by agricultural producers. Again, for agricultural producers exempted, there is this RMC which exempts them po from the issuance of principal and supplementary receipt. The condition is that the sale or the receipt for the year shall not exceed 1 million. Pero dapat the agricultural producer would still record the sale, no? Sa books niya. Pinakita ko kanina, di ba, yung books, yung ledger, yung journal. Record mo pa din doon, cash receipts, indicating the date of transaction, the description of the goods, the registered name, the amount of tax withheld, net received. So that will still be recorded by the agricultural producer. This is very common sa mga retail, di ba? Yung producer ng vegetable or fruits, let's say for example, so long as not exceeding 1 M, it's for the year, it's for the year. So there is this exemption. All right? If the annual gross sales already exceeds 1 M at any time during the taxable year, then the agricultural producer shall be required to issue sales invoices. No? For every subsequent transaction, this is not anymore 100 because again, this has already been revised under the EOPT. The invoice will be issued for every subsequent transaction of 500 pesos or more. No? And if the agricultural producer derives income other than selling the agricultural food product, okay pa din, the exemption will still apply so long as the sales do not exceed 1 M and the sales from unrelated product will not exceed 30% of the aggregate sales or receipts of the agricultural producer for the given year. Okay? So that's on agricultural producers. Okay? So the proof lang that the other party, kasi nga walang invoice, no? So if I am, let's say for example, SM, buying from an agricultural producer, then I will submit these certificates, no? If the income payments do not exceed 300,000, then it should be exempt from withholding tax. But if the income payments exceed 300,000, then I will subject it to 1% withholding tax. And if I am SM, I will keep the BIR form 2307, and that will be my proof that I entered into a transaction with this agricultural producer. And if the BIR will say, oh, you should need to issue invoice, there should be invoice to support this transaction, then I can argue that the income payment with this AP or agricultural producer, the gross sales of the agricultural producer do not which is why in lieu of the invoice will be presented as proof of the transaction. Right? And the last one, this is on the withholding tax on gross remittances made by electronic operators and digital financial service providers. So in this revenue regulation, na-release to around last week of December, towards the end of the year, kaya hindi masyadong napansin. But basically, this regulation already took effect last January 11, 2024. Pero ano pa naman po, marketplace operators and DFPS. DFPS stands for Digital Financial Service Providers, like yung GCash, e-wallet, let's say for example, Paymaya. The e-marketplace like Lazada or Shopee are allowed for a period of 90 days transitory period from the date of issuance of the RMC. And the RMC issued nga is itong RMC number 8-2024 last January 15 of this year. So what's the requirement? Yung nagbebenta through Lazada or Shopee, or nag-receive ng payment through the digital financial payment service providers. Number one, it is now required that all sellers or merchants must register with the BIR. And to implement this one, the BIR is requiring GCash or requiring the marketplace, e-marketplace to require their sellers the BIR issued COR. So the e-marketplace operator must require the presentation of the COR. For existing online sellers that are not yet registered, we are given on or before April 14 this year to register. Of course, for new sellers, you have to register prior to using the marketplace. And it's also required here that a bank account must be used where the money coming from the e-marketplace or GCash will go to, and that it should not go to your personal bank account. And mamomonitor na ba ito ni BIR? The answer is yes, especially if your gross sales is more than 500,000. Because there is a requirement po that there will be withholding to be done by the e-marketplace or the digital financial provider of 1% of the 1/2 of the gross remittance by the e-marketplace operators and DFSP to the seller or the merchant for the goods or services sold or paid through their platform or facility. So if that's 1 million, let's say for example na i-remit ni GCash sa'yo, 50% of that times 50% will be subjected to the 1% withholding tax. Okay. Mamomonitor ka na po ba? The answer is yes. Because basically, you will now appear in the alpha list of payees, insofar as GCash or the e-marketplace operator is concerned, which is why tax compliance is a must. Alright? Pero, there shall be no withholding naman po if your annual gross remittances is not exceeding 500,000. Or the cumulative gross remittances to the online seller or merchant in a taxable year has not exceeded 500,000, or if there is exemption from income tax or subject to lower tax rates seller or merchant with proof of entitlement, ruling, clearance, whatsoever. The requirement lang under the RMC is that if not exceeding 500,000 yung gross remittances, a sworn declaration must be executed by the seller or the merchant, and it will be submitted to the e-marketplace operator or DFSPS, and the e-marketplace operator or DFSPS is expected to submit a copy of that sworn declaration to the BIR on or before the 20th day of the first month of each taxable year. So what does that tell us? Default withholding na 1% of the 50% of the remittance. If hindi mo gustong ma-withholdan, might as well execute a sworn declaration. Kim, may format ba ng sworn declaration? Meron po, it's Annex A to these RMCs. So you may check RMC number 8-2024. Annex A to it, there is already a format of this sworn declaration. All that you need to do is mag-fill in the blanks na lang po kayo, and execute it and have it notarized and submit it to the e-marketplace operator. All right? Exactly 4 p.m. I'm done with my talk, but please um, allow me lang to segue our firm's tax health check tool. No, so this is the QR code if you want to avail of this. Or Miss Jem will also be sharing later on the link to this tax health check tool. So this is our firm's advocacy actually of helping the taxpayers in general to determine what are the obvious lapses when it comes to the tax compliance. So in this particular tool, there will be questions po that you will have to answer. And every after 2 or 3 questions, meron pong parang diagnostic, no, or finding na you should do this, you should not do this, so on and so forth. And of course, if you want to talk more, then feel free to reach out. No? So you can have this QR code or you can check the link provided. I am now good, Miss Shin, for Open Forum. Thank you very much for your time. Sorry, I have to talk fast. We have limited time, but hopefully I covered as much information as you may need this afternoon.
Yes, thank you so much. What an insightful discussion. Grabe, sobrang marami po ako natutunan, Attorney Kim, and especially yung mga go-negosyantes natin dyan. Sobrang big help po talaga ng lahat ng diniscuss nyo today. Ayan, grabe shoutout din sa mga participants po natin na nagstay from the start until now. Umabot po ata tayo ng 250 participants. Grabe, ang dami. At talaga nagstay sila. And ayan, sobrang daming questions na po nila, attorney.
Parang gagabihin tayo dito. Sige.
Collect po kami ng mga more than mga nasa around 50 questions. Pero pipili po tayo ng mga questions, okay? So mag-start po muna tayo, attorney, sa mga general questions. Like ito, first po na napili natin. Ang tanong niya ay, what's the difference between VAT and non-VAT?
All right. That's a good question. When we talk po of VAT, that's value-added tax, no? Meaning to say your transaction is not exempt under the law. Meaning to say hindi siya na, kasi sa law po may specific transactions na exempted from VAT. So automatic po doon, non-VAT po sila. Meaning to say they will be paying other percentage tax, yung 3%. Now, if your transaction is not listed on those VAT exempt transaction, ano po to? Medyo madami po to, ma'am. We can have one session about VAT, no? But just to give you an idea, like let's say for example, if you're into hospital or education or selling of agricultural, marine food product, VAT exempt po yun, automatic, no? But if you're not in that type of transaction, the moment you exceed po 3 million, vatable ka na. Okay? But pending excess in 3 million, hindi ka pa umabot doon, non-VAT ka pa din until such time you will exceed the 3 million. So, pag non-VAT, percentage tax. Pag VAT, 12% VAT.
Okay, thank you po, attorney. Okay, next naman po, paano po pag employed tapos gustong i-register ang business sa BIR?
If you're employed po, nothing prohibits you naman from registering if you have a side hustle business. No? So you can just register. There's BIR form that you will have to fill up, 1901 if I'm not mistaken. Basta 1900, I'm very sure of that. You will just fill in there ano yung business mo, the nature of your business. And then as I've mentioned, you will have to specify kung ano yung tax type mo. So be careful. If you are not expecting na mag-exceed ka ng 3 million during the year, then do not check VAT. Choose percentage tax. And then check na din yung employment mo, baka bawal. Yun lang.
Yes. Ayun guys, double check niyo muna, okay? So next naman po, paano po kung one-person corporation under barangay MSME?
That's good. If it's one-person corporation, you are not sole prop. Alright? Hindi po kayo sole proprietorship. So yung diniscuss ko kanina na tax compliance for corporation, that will apply to the one-person corporation. Kasi SEC registered ka na po dyan. So that means yung business mo, yung corporation, yung tax mo, yung VAT, 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 yung VAT BIR return mo dyan for income tax 1702, and yung applicable tax rate mo po is either the 25% or the 20%, not anymore the 0 to 35%. And wala ka ng option for the 8%. Alright?
Okay. Okay po. Next, ang COR po ba ay need i-renew?
There's no need to renew na po the COR. Pero, yun, good thing na raise mo yan. I missed that in my discussion a while back, no? There's no need to renew. Wala na pong annual renewal fee effective January 22. Pero sa COR po kasi ngayon, may nakalagay pa na annual registration fee or ARF na 500 pesos, no? So yung Ease of Paying Taxes Act provides that if you want na i-remove yung annual registration fee indication sa COR mo, you can have it updated in your RDO. You have until December 31 this year para ipa-revise mo yung COR mo, patanggal mo yung annual registration kasi wala na po yun.
Okay. Thank you po. Ito naman po, punta muna tayo sa policy closure question. From Seal Dinapo. If the closure of the business was not fulfilled, may ibang mga documents na hindi na-submit ng owner, may penalty po ba yon? And paano po pag nawala yung irretrievable na mga books or docs?
Yun, that's a common problem. As to the question, may penalty ba yon? Most likely meron. Kasi unless you formally closed your business, yung tax type mo sa COR, it will continue to run. Mag-expect si BIR na may filing ka monthly, quarterly, etc. So, with that, may penalty ka na for open cases, no? So, ang ginagawa namin dyan, especially if there is no more operation, go to the RDO, stop filer, no? With the RDO, meaning to inform the RDO, we are not anymore operating, we will now formally stop the filing of these returns. At least there is a form po that you need to fill up and submit to the RDO. It's not automatic. Kumbaga, it's not the work of the BIR to follow up with us and ask, ano ka ba? May profit ka pa ba dyan? Or wala? It's not. It's ours. Unfortunately. So, may penalty doon. And then, of course, apply for formal closure. Kasi nga, as mentioned a while back, even if we are sole prop, kasi sasabihin mo, mamamatay din naman. Well, that's right. But baka magsasuffer dyan yung mga heirs mo. Kasi hindi pa transfer yung properties mo. You have properties just because hindi pa cleared yung previous business mo. Yun.
Okay, thank you so much po. Punta naman tayo sa computation question. Ito po, for mixed income earner, the computation of 8% in excess of 250,000, kasama ba yung salary doon sa 250,000 salary?
Alright. Very good question yan. Good thing na raise mo yan. Alright, let's go back to the mixed income earner. For mixed income earner po, again, your individual to, you're earning compensation at the same time you have business income, no? Sa compensation po, automatic po dyan, 0 to 35%. Wala tayong option 8% because, again, we don't have sales. But for your business, may option, basta ma-meet mo yung conditions not exceeding 3M, not VAT registered, you have the option of the 8%. But the catch there is that hindi mo na ma-deduct yung 250K or 250,000. Bakit? Kasi 'di ba sa sa compensation mo, the first 0%, the first 250,000 is already subject to 0% tax. Gets? So yung 8%, wala nang deduction for 250. Otherwise, lugi yung government kasi may 0% ka na for the first 250 of your compensation, and then may another 250 ka na naman for your business expense, for your business income. So 0 to 35 for the compensation, and then if you opt for 8% sa business mo, 8% na lang siya straight, no more deduction for 250. Okay?
Okay, thank you so much po. Next naman po about documentation. Eto, kailangan po ba lahat ng negosyante na registered sa BIR ay mag-register din sa ORUS or ORUS? I am a proprietor, home-based business, no physical store, purely operating online. I was only issued with one manual books of account.
Yan. As to the question, ma'am, na kailangan, I haven't seen the mandate to that. Pero as to the practicality, I should say better register with the UROS. Kasi po sa UROS, it stands, by the way, online registration and update system, no? So this is the digitalization of the BIR. So parang taga-BIR na talaga ako dito. But what we are looking at here kasi is everything ultimately sooner will be online. So in the UROS, you will register there your official email address. So just in case you will have, say for example, PIN verification. Or for your information po pala, may ano na tayo digital TIN. You can apply digital TIN via UROS. And that digital TIN already serves as your government permanent ID. No? Generate. All you need to do, of course, fill up ka doon. Mag-upload lang po kayo ng one by one picture, no eyeglasses, not smiling, white background. You can generate na your digital TIN. So in short, what I'm trying to say is there are services in the UROS or online that could make your life easier rather than going to the RTO, calling in line and asking questions. Especially, sabi niya, machine online, ano siya, no, worker, so definitely very tech savvy na yan. So I think that would be best if you register under UROS. Pero dun po sa mga hindi masyadong tech savvy, baka kasi ma-phishing tayo, di ba? Sendan kayo ng link dyan, ma-hack pa kayo. Be careful lang talaga, no? In reading the emails that you receive, if it is an official email from the BIR or not.
Okay. Thank you po. Ito naman po, generic question. Attorney, what recommendations do you have po about factoring in income tax and business local taxes in the overall cost po for effective cash flow management? Thank you.
Okay. Mahaba-habang usapan yan, ma'am. But but basically, well, let's just shorten it. I think to make the long story short, you just have to observe the tax payments that you do for the past years that you've been operating. Now, you have to be cautious on that. Kasi if you want to factor it in your pricing, then you need to have at least an average of that, no? The acceptable average that you have to take into consideration. Yun na lang po. Kasi if we go to the specific pricing formula plus profit, we won't have enough time to answer that.
Yes, thank you po, attorney. Ito naman po, regarding naman policy online and talagang, magandang question po ito. What tax category or setup would be ideal for content creators and authors who plan to sell ebooks and other digital products like online trainings? Thank you po.
I think magdedepende po yan sa expected sales mo. As mentioned a while back, if you're expecting, and realistic po to if you're expecting, to sell siguro mga 10 million or 20 million in a year, and that's net of all your expenses. Kasi nga, I understand you don't have much expenses there. Siguro you can consider one-person corporation or PC so that you will be paying the 25%. But mind you, there's the 2% minimum corporate there. But if it's just startup lang din naman, you don't know yet how much you will be earning, if you will even reach 3 million gross in a year, then I think sufficient na po. You register as a sole proprietor. And then eventually, as your business grows big, then that could be the time that you can convert your sole proprietorship into corporate setup. So either you alone, PC, or baka may investor ka na client mo na din, or you form a new corporation. So dahan-dahan.
Okay, copy noted on that, attorney. Thank you po. Ito naman po, what if the sari-sari store not operated and not renewed for how many years because of the owner is wala na po, or yun, namatay na po. Then I need to open the store, what will happen sa registration? Or ano po yung gagawin ko?
The question there, ma'am, is meron bang assets from the deceased person na kailangan i-transfer sa name mo? Like yung land or whatsoever. Kasi pag meron, then definitely you need to clear up with the BIR, no? And pay the necessary taxes, estate tax to be specific. If wala naman, then I think you can just open it and register under your own name or as your own business. So yun. Otherwise, you will really need talaga clearance and pay the estate tax from the BIR.
Okay. Ayan, last question na po ito, attorney. Sobrang dami po.
Ang dami.
Ang daming questions. Talagang lahat ng participants natin today ay talagang interested and talagang invested po sila sa discussions nyo. Ito po, isang general question na lang din. How to avail tax discount PWD?
Yeah. For PWD, sorry, yes po.
Ito po, proprietorship na diniscuss, solo parent lang. How about senior citizen and PWD? Thank you po.
The senior citizen and PWD, ongoing na po kasi siya, di ba? It's already existing since time, I should say time immemorial, kasi medyo matagal-tagal. So same rule pa din naman for senior citizen and PWD. At the very least, you should have an ID there indicating that you are PWD, or an ID indicating at least your date of birth to prove that you are senior citizen. Same, 20% discount and VAT exemption. Yung pinaka-recent lang po na na-implement lang last year is yung sa solo parent. Kaya we have to highlight that kasi not many establishments are aware pa po on that discount given to solo parents. Pero may ano po yun may condition qualifications.
Okay. Ayun. Okay po. Thank you so much, attorney. And sa lahat po ng participants natin, yes, nababasa po namin lahat ng questions nyo and i-collate po namin ito lahat and isi-send natin kay Attorney Kim para po masagot po yung ibang questions nyo. And also, may replay po tayo para po pala dun sa mga nagtatanong about kung may replay or recorded po ba to. Yes, naka-live po tayo ngayon sa YouTube account ng Go Negosyo. Just search po at Let's Go Negosyo on YouTube. And posted din po ito sa ating Facebook community or Go Negosyo community. So yan, i-send po ng Go Negosyo team yung link ng Facebook group. If hindi pa po kayo nakakapag-join, join na po kayo dyan sa group. And marami pa po dyan mga perks para po sa mga members po ng ating community. Ayun, once again, thank you so much po, Attorney Kim. Pero bago po palang lahat, mag-group photo po muna tayo. So, kindly open your camera. Yan, sa mga Go Negosyantes natin. Patingin naman, yan marami tayong mga Go Negosyantes na habang nasa tindahan, nakikinig. Ayan, ang mga smile. Alright, Jem, ikaw ba yung mag-photo?
Okay, so everyone, please smile na lang everyone. Please smile. We have 9 slides available. So everyone, please smile. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Slide number 2. 1, 2, and 3. Slide 3. 1, 2, and 3. 4. 1, 2, and 3. Slide number 5. 1, 2, and 3. Number 6. 1, 2, 3. 7. 1, 2, and 3. 8. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, back to you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much po. Again, maraming salamat for joining us today, Attorney Kim. Very insightful po talaga itong discussion about taxation. helpful siya lalo na magpa-file na ng ngayong filing na ng income tax return sa BIR. And ayun po, meron po ba kayong last message para po sa ating mga Go Negosyantes, and you can promote din po yung ibang services niyo po.
Ayun, yeah, thank you very much, Mission, for this opportunity, no, and the Go Negosyo team. Thank you very much. Yun lang po, I hope we will survive this tax busy season. I know we will survive this one, but to prepare for the April 15, you may want to check again our tax health check tool to determine also how tax healthy you are. So hopefully that will provide guidance to you. Maraming salamat po for your time.
Thank you so much po, Attorney Kim. And of course, before we wrap up, meron pa kami mga announcement kung saan nyo pwedeng kung saan pwede pang madagdagan ang inyong kaalaman sa pagnenegosyo. Andito po si Sir P.A. De Guzman, the Programs Development Manager of Go Negosyo, para i-share sa atin ang mga dapat pa nating abangan. Sir P.A.?
Yes, hi Sheen. Maraming salamat. And again, we thank Attorney Kim for sharing his knowledge. Alam ko na taxation is a very bothersome topic. Pero again,